Okay, everyone, we're live. I think so. I think it's working now. If it is in fact working, go ahead and leave a comment about where you're watching from today or like the post so I know it's up to date and going. So thanks for your patience. All right, well, hello sages. Welcome to Sage Advice for Daily Life, held every week just for you. I'm Dr. Jen Martin, and I'm a psychologist in Gainesville, Florida, where I have the honor of supporting people and creating lives that they feel more passionately about. Today we are going to be talking about something that I'm really passionate about, which is strengthening romantic relationships. And there's going to be 3 different tips that I'm going to talk to you about today that you can already start using to be building your romantic relationship. The first one's going to be love maps. Second one, bids for affection. And then the third one, love languages. So, love maps. A lot of what we're talking about today is going to be coming from the research of Dr. John Gottman. He has a love lab in Seattle where he has couples come and he researches them. It's really fascinating. And he talks about the fact that long relationships last because the couples, know each other and they really like each other. The fact is, though, that we all change a lot over the years. I think of even my own self. Who I was 5 years ago or even 10 years ago is really different from who I am today. And the same is true for your partner. We're all evolving and changing and growing all the time. And so we want to make sure that we're constantly building in moments to make sure that we truly know each other. Think about all the investment that we have into our friends. We have many hours of conversations and times that we spend together, and it's because you really care about them. And so the same is true for our partner. We really want to be investing in our partner as much as we do our friends. And this really helps when we have regular check-ins, not only about their daily life, how they're doing, what's going on, but also remembering to check in about things that are really important to them as well. Their goals, their dreams, their fears, their worries, all of those things. And so this is what they call a love map. And a love map gives you the landmarks and the details to know what's important in the world of your partner. Initially, if you think about a map, it will show you where you came from, where you currently are, and where you're going. And this is how we want to understand our own lives and also the lives of our partner. Who were they before we met them? What were the things that shaped them and helped them to create the value system they have? What are the things going on now that they most find important and meaningful? And where are they actually headed in their life? You might find that drawing out your own life story is really helpful for you to figure out those pivotal moments and figuring out what lessons you learned and the things that shaped you. And so as you actually share that with your partner, that models the vulnerability, the openness that you want your partner to have, and that will give them the courage to know that, hey, I can follow, I want to do this back. So we build love maps by having conversations where we give our partner our full attention and where we ask a lot of open-ended questions. So we might ask questions about the past. What's a favorite childhood memory or game you played? Who was someone that was a mentor to you? Or what are some favorite vacations that we had together? You might also ask them about the present. Who's your best friend right now? What's the hardest thing about work? And asking them about the future. When do you want to retire? What do you want that to look like? Or if you couldn't fail, what would you try right now? All of this really builds a solid foundation. It really acts like the glue in the relationship, because when we change and when things shift, it's what really holds us together to feel like you really know your partner. Also, when there are things like conflict or hurt feelings that come up, this helps give you the context to understand where they're coming from and why. It helps you to understand their motivations, and that can be really helpful. So, first tip, building those love maps regularly. The second one is a bid for affection. A bid for affection is a way that I'm bidding you to show connection with me. So it's essentially a way to reach out, to connect, to be closer to your partner. So bids of affection can be verbal or nonverbal. An example of something verbal might be asking your partner about the outcome of a project they were working on. A nonverbal bid for affection might be showing excitement when they come home, or when you walk by them when they're sitting on the couch, touching their shoulder. Other bids for affection can be obvious or subtle. Something obvious might be sending your partner a good luck text, or when your partner sends you an I love you text. Or something more subtle might be when you are talking about something important and your partner puts their phone down and looks you in the eye and is really listening intently. Bids can also happen when we need support. So let's say I'm crying or I'm asking my partner for a hug or for advice. Those are also bids for affection. And our partner gets to decide first if they notice our bid for affection, and then secondly, if they decide to respond to it or not. And our relationships are actually built up of a million small moments. All of those little moments build together to create the cumulative effect of the relationship. It really sets the tone of the relationship. And each day we have an infinite number of moments where we can have these bids for affection. So back to the Love Lab in Seattle, Dr. Gottman split the couples into what he describes as two groups. The first group is the Masters group. The Masters group are people that are in relationships that feel loving, supportive. The Disasters group is ones where they're having a lot more trouble. So regarding bids of affection, he found that the Masters group actually had 86% positive reactions to bids for affection. So if I was doing something, my partner would respond 86% of the time to that. Pretty good. Unfortunately, with the Disasters group, that number went down to 33%. And the cool thing is, in a 10-minute dinner conversation, they find that with the Masters group, they might have up to 100 positive bids for affection that are happening at that time. Pretty amazing. If we don't feel like our bids for affection are being noticed or are being ignored in some way, we don't feel cared for. And ultimately, we feel more disengaged, we feel more distance, and we have more resentment in the relationship. So what does it look like when someone does respond to a bid of affection versus doesn't? The options are the partner turns towards us, they turn away, or they turn against us. And I'll use an example from my life to show you how that can play out. So earlier in the week, I was doing the dishes. We had this big pile of dishes, not fun, but I was working on it and making some good progress. And my husband was on the couch and I could see that he was doing something on his phone. And I heard him kind of sigh or mumble, and I looked up from the dishes and he looked kind of distressed. And I called over and I said, "Hey, honey, are you okay? What's going on?" And he was so intently focused on what he was doing, he didn't even hear me at all. But because he didn't hear me, I realized this must be a big deal. Something must really be bothering him. It's not like him to not respond when I see something. So at that moment, I was at a crossroads. I got to decide, do I turn towards him? Do I turn away, or do I turn against? So let's look at what that would actually look like. Turning against him might be saying something like, "Why are you upset? We had a great day. What's going on over there?" Basically, we're rejecting the bid for affection in some way. And his was very nonverbal, right? It was him just sighing, looking kind of sad on the couch. The other way I could have responded was turning away, missing it, ignoring it in some way. So I could have actually just kept doing the dishes and pretended, "Oh, I'll check in with him later," or pretending I didn't notice at all. The third one, luckily, I did was I turned towards. Since I could tell he was upset, I stopped the dishes, I wiped my hands, and I went over and I sat on the couch and I said, "What's going on? Are you okay?" So that ended up being a really positive moment, because when I saw that he was not feeling good, I responded, I reacted, I showed concern and care. So a very subtle bid for affection that he maybe had been unconscious about, that then I was able to turn towards. Sometimes you'll find that you miss a bid for affection from your partner, and that's okay, as long as we're trying our best and as long as we are actually showing bids for affection too. That will create more of that connection and harmony. The lesson we're going to talk about today is speaking our partner's language, or their love language specifically. So you may have been traveling before and you meet someone that speaks a different language than you. And as you're trying to communicate and figure out maybe where the bathroom is or where you have to go, sometimes a lot can get lost because you're not speaking to each other in the same language. And so it can feel frustrating, confusing, and ultimately both people can end the conversation feeling kind of badly. The same can happen in our romantic relationships if we aren't speaking to our partner's love language. And there's actually 5 different love languages that we'll cover in a few minutes. Basically, a love language is the way that we feel a sense of affection, love, connection, and care from someone in our life. We all have a primary love language, and at times we might even have a secondary love language. The more we have, the better, because that means when someone's speaking to us in one of our love languages, we're receiving it, we're feeling really good. And it is important to know our love language. So if you happen to know yours, go ahead and type it in the comments. It'll be interesting to see what the commonalities are. But most importantly, we need to know what our partner's love language is. That is key, because we want to try to show love to them in the way that they receive and hear it the most. And it's ideal to be adjusting our own behavior to be fitting them. We do this because we want them to feel cared for. We want them to feel loved. We want them to feel the investment coming from us. And it's a way to be more effective. If we're speaking and trying to communicate in a language that they don't hear or understand, you're not going to get what you want. It also really honors the differences you guys have as well. And showing someone love in their language does not take away at all from ours. So it's a really good thing to know the love language of your partner so that you can prioritize that. Sometimes people wonder what will happen if in our partnership we have a mismatch in our love language. That will actually happen most of the time, and that's okay. The goal is actually not to find someone with the same love language as you. The goal is to actually be able to show love in the way that they receive it. And one study even showed that having the same love language as your partner was not a predictor of relationship satisfaction. What was the predictor was if you were actually responding in a way that they felt the most loved. If you don't know your love language, you can always take a quiz, and that might even be a good love map question for you guys to talk about. So here's the first type of love language. The first one is time. Spending quality time is when we feel like we are giving and in someone's undivided attention. So that's our number one love language, if we feel the most connected to someone when we feel like we've got that quality time together. One study I read actually showed this was the number one love language that people have. So a way to show love language, this love language of quality time, might be to give your partner your undivided attention, to sit together, or to do an activity that they like. The next one is quality touch, physical touch. Physical touch, not quality touch. But it also can be quality too. So physical touch is when someone feels loved when they have some kind of affectionate physical gestures. It could be a pat, a hug, a kiss. It doesn't have to be sexual touch, but it can be. So it could be things like reaching out and rubbing their back when you're sitting on the couch together, reaching for their hand when you're in the car, giving them a small massage or a kiss when you guys wake up. The next one is acts of service. Acts of service are when people feel most loved when you do something to help them out. Maybe you tidy up around the kitchen, you help out with a chore that's theirs, or maybe you put the kids to bed. The next one is gift giving. This is when people feel loved when they receive a thoughtful gift of some kind. I read an example of how someone was complaining about their soap running out and not liking the soap, and the next day when they were in the shower they found that their husband had put a new bar of soap in, and that felt wonderful to them. So it could be when you're traveling, picking up a little memento for them, or bringing home their favorite snack one day. The last one is words of affirmation. This is when you feel loved when someone shares compliments or says nice things to you. So you might send your partner an inspiring quote, an encouraging message, or even saying thank you. So to recap today, we've talked about 3 things: building our love maps, bids for affection, and expressing love in someone's love language. So go ahead and comment about what you think you might be practicing more this week. And thank you for joining us, Sages. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!